Hey, hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates, guys. And this morning we are getting right into it. So you heard this morning in our news in 90 seconds that we had some comments coming from Nickosy Phillips, who is the political leader of Unity of the People. And he has been calling for the leaders here in Tobago to come together and establish an effective crime plan. And so this morning we have Nickosy Phillips online with us. Good morning, Nickosy. Can you hear me? Pleasant good morning. Can you hear me? Your audio is not working.
Hi, good morning.
Yes,
Morning, good morning.
I can hear you very well now.
Yeah. Right, good morning to Tobago Updates. Good morning to the listening public of Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning to you, the host of Tobago Updates. Good morning.
Thank you. Nickosy, it's always a pleasure to have you on with us, and you made a very pertinent call to the leaders to come up with a crime plan / strategy to deal with the crime situation that we've been seeing erupting here on the island of Tobago, especially for 2023. Have you gotten any response on that, any acknowledgement on that call?
No, it's obviously they won't listen to me, but I know at least I made the call so that the public can see that there are leaders that has common sense and could see that this crime situation has gone way beyond the Ministry of National Security, the Commissioner of Police. It now has to deal with us as leaders. Because while I was in the United Nations in New York, I would have met with the Commissioner of Police for Taiwan. I would have met with the Baltimore Commissioner of Police and certain other Commissioner of Police, and I had the same discussion. And one of the things that were mentioned is that once the leaders of a country, both opposition, vying for positions in government or not, they do not come together and sit on one accord for the betterment and the safety of the citizens, it will continue to have a push and pull because we see when the government invites the UNC, they go with their plan, then they come out after the meeting and pull along what was said, and then you have that lack of support. Then we have another party coming and saying that they have a crime plan. And it's over skelter. So this is where now, right now, Trinidad and Tobago needs a serious intervention in terms of the crime situation. And we cannot continue to force our hand to say that the government isn't doing anything. The opposition isn't doing anything. Other political parties pulling and tugging. So this is where the time is called, the time has reached for all of us as political leaders to sit around a round table. The same time you could have a symposium to have other Caribbean leaders come together to talk about crime is the same way you can call all your political leaders of Trinidad and Tobago. If you can't talk to Gary Griffith, then have the meeting where it's controlled. Even though we have to sign an agreement, because remember, the things that we're putting together as a crime plan for the safety and security of citizens, it also has to be censored in the fact that when we come out of that meeting, we cannot discuss because that is national security things that you're putting together. So you cannot come out of a meeting and discuss. You can come out and say, well, the discussion was fruitful. We're looking to have proper prior or future engagements to see how best our um, ideas would have come together as political leaders and political parties. This is where the country needs to be headed because at this point in time, you see in the fifth murder in Tobago, Tobago of all places.
Tell me, how effective do you think a crime plan or a crime strategy from the THA would be, especially seeing that the THA does not have jurisdiction or responsibility for national security on the island here? And what are some of the ideas that you are talking about?
In regards to Tobago, we have to look at the Coast Guard. Just recently, one of our fishermen from Tobago had the loss in sea. You call the Coast Guard base, the boats are in Trinidad. There is no safety and security of our borders in Tobago. We have Army or Defense Force in Tobago. What are they doing? what we normally, when you see only when the place is on a shutdown, we see them come out in joint patrol with the police service. We have to look at Tobago. Tobago's sea space is wide open for any sort of corruption or any sort of illegal drug trade or gun trade. That's a fact. We have to also look at the Tobago police, the resources that are given to the police officers of Tobago. You go to the police station now, they don't have a receipt book to give you. They have to, if you have to print something, you have to go next door. The police officer have to go next door to print something to come back to the station. The resources, there is not level of, there's not resources, because my question is to the Minister of National Security and the government. If so much money is being pumped into the Ministry of National Security every year or every budget, where is the allocation? What allocation goes to Tobago? How does that resource disperse to Tobago, and to what extent? Because we're seeing the dilapidation of the army base, which the chief secretary said he will try to fix, or they will use their resources to fix the Coast Guard base. Up to this date, I haven't seen any work. If there is any work on it that I haven't seen, well, maybe. But otherwise, a crime plan for Tobago is needed, because we have to continue to maintain the safety of our citizens of Tobago and in the Tobago space. And it also has to do with culturism. Culturism in the sense that we have too much officers who know people that some people get off with, and some things, because there are some things that can be avoided. But when you know an officer, Tobago is a small place where you know family, you know friends, and you're rubbing shoulders with persons. And I can say, I must congratulate them, which I did. They would have done excellent in finding the person who would have killed the Mr. Cooper. And for a small space and the Tobago space, they are doing an excellent job with all the resources that they give them.
And you are aware that the acting police commissioner here, ACP Collis Hazel, that he takes his instruction from Trinidad, right? So with the formulation of crime plan strategy, who does that go to in your perspective? Who would that go to, and who would be carrying it out? Because he does not take his instruction from the THA.
Well, that has to change. And as you see, this is where the chief secretary comes in. If the chief secretary is not being heard in regards to that level of crime plan or initiative, at least, let me tell you something. You see, sometimes when you get this constitution thing, it overrides the integrity of what is supposed to be done in Trinidad and Tobago. And if the chief secretary is running the affairs of Tobago, and it doesn't need to, it doesn't say that, okay, this has to be in the constitution in order for me to give direction to the acting commissioner of police. Common sense would say, okay, as the commissioner of police for Tobago, the head of Tobago is the chief secretary. Let me, as the commissioner of police, meet with the chief secretary, the minority leader, and other political parties of leaders in Tobago. Let us have a discourse. Let us come up with a crime plan. And with that crime plan being finished, then the acting commissioner of police or the chief secretary can forward those recommendations to the Ministry of National Security or the commissioner of police. And the thing is very easy. This is not a thing where, oh, who has authority, who has an authority. The interest and the safety of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, especially Tobago, is what is needed. Forget, sometimes we have to sit down, it's the same thing. We're using psychologists to talk to children and we're not getting to them. But if somebody without a psychology degree talk to them, it's not about just talking them because they have a certificate or you're qualified. It's about your humanity. And humanity will tell them, as a leader, as a chief secretary, as the acting commissioner of police, you do it upon yourself. You want a crime plan initiative for Tobago, you want to incorporate the private business and the chief secretary and other political leaders, you call a meeting for yourself with all of us. We sit, we draft up a crime plan, we suggest it to the Commissioner of Police, we suggest it to the Minister of National Security and the government, and this is what should be running for the affairs of Tobago. Simple. It doesn't have to be in the constitution to say that who has authority and who doesn't have authority. We need to get past that, and that is what is destroying our country at this point in time.
And Nickosy, thank you for choosing Tobago Updates and always giving us your time and very important points that you raised there. Guys, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be back with much more conversation after this.
The energy filled the sky.